Hey there, folks. Buckle up because I'm about to take you on one heck of a ride. A true story from the heart of suburban America that'll make your jaw drop and your blood boil. Picture this, a quiet cul-de-sac in Maplewood Lane, Ohio, where the lawns are greener than a golf course, kids ride bikes till sunset, and every house looks like it's auditioning for a Better Homes and Gardens cover. That's where Jake Miller, a 34-year-old electrical engineer with a knack for tinkering, thought he'd found his slice of the American dream, a sleek, solar-powered home he'd spent years designing, his fortress of solitude after a decade grinding in the city. But dreams have a funny way of turning into nightmares, and for Jake, that nightmare had a name: Carl Jenkins, the neighbor from hell who'd turned Maplewood Lane into a battleground. Jake's house was a masterpiece. Think Tesla meets cozy suburbia. Solar panels that hummed like a well-oiled machine, a smart system that dimmed the lights before he even yawned, and a sturdy cedar fence that screamed, "I like my privacy, thanks." He'd poured every dime and every late-night sketch into this place, a reward for years of hustle, a place to finally breathe. The neighborhood? Picture perfect. Neighbors waved like they meant it, brought over casseroles, and invited him to barbecues. It felt like the kind of place you'd raise a family, grow old, maybe even learn to grill a decent burger. But across the street, Carl's house stuck out like a sore thumb, not because it was ugly, mind you, but because Carl himself was a one-man wrecking crew. Loud, brash, always tinkering in his garage with power tools, screaming at midnight, his driveway a junkyard of half-built birdhouses and rusted car parts. He wasn't just a neighbor, he was a walking HOA violation waiting to happen. At first, Jake tried to play nice. He'd nod when Carl shouted across the street, "Nice panels. Buddy, what did those set you back? A kidney?" Jake would just grin, shrug, and keep his head down. He wasn't here to make waves, he just wanted peace. But Carl had this way of getting under your skin, like a mosquito you can't swat. "You city folks and your fancy toys," he'd sneer, leaning over Jake's fence like he owned it. "Out here, we keep it simple." Jake bit his tongue, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Carl wasn't just poking fun, was sizing him up. Things were fine for a few months. Jake's solar setup was saving him hundreds, his house was his castle, and he was even starting to like the smell of fresh-cut grass. Then one morning, he opened his electric bill and nearly choked on his coffee. The numbers were insane, double what they should have been. He checked his panels, his smart system, and every outlet in the house. Everything was perfect. So why was he paying enough to light up a small stadium? Curious and a little ticked off, Jake started poking around his property, and that's when he found it, hidden under some ivy at the corner of his lot. A thick, black cable that didn't belong, snaking from his power box straight to Carl's garage. His stomach dropped. This wasn't a glitch. This was theft, bold as brass. Jake's an engineer, right? He's methodical, not the type to storm over and start swinging. So he snapped photos, every angle, like he was building a case for CSI. He capped the cable, locked it tight, and marched across the street, heart pounding but voice steady. Carl was in his garage, fiddling with some rusty contraption, a smirk plastered on his face. "Hey, Carl," Jake said, holding up his phone with the photo. "Want to explain why your garage is mooching off my power?" Carl barely glanced at it, just chuckled. "What? You think that's mine? You're paranoid, man. Maybe your fancy system's just junk." Jake didn't flinch. "I disconnected it, Carl. Keep it that way, or we're gonna have a problem." Carl's smirk faded, his eyes narrowing. "You're barking up the wrong tree, buddy. Stick your nose where it doesn't belong, and you'll wish you hadn't." That night, Jake barely slept, replaying Carl's words, that veiled threat lingering like a bad smell. By morning, his worst fears were confirmed. His pristine fence, splattered with red paint, jagged streaks like something out of a horror flick. Tacked to his front door was a note, scrawled in black marker. "Keep your mouth shut, or else." Jake's blood boiled, but he wasn't about to back down. He ordered security cameras that same day, had them up by dusk, watching every inch of his property like a hawk. For a few days, it was quiet, too quiet. Then, at 2 a.m., his phone pinged with a motion alert. There was Carl, caught on camera, creeping through the shadows with a flashlight, tools in hand, hooking up a new cable to Jake's power line like he was wiring a damn Christmas tree. Jake called the cops, his voice shaking but firm. When they showed up, Carl played dumb. "All who, me? And this guy's unhinged." The cops promised to review the footage, but Carl's parting smirk told Jake this was far from over. That's when Carl kicked it up a notch, and folks, it got ugly. A week later, Jake got served papers Carl was suing him, claiming Jake's tampering fried his appliances and caused emotional distress. Emotional distress. Can you believe the gall? Worse, Carl started working the neighborhood like a politician, whispering lies at barbecues, turning Jake into the bad guy. He's trouble, Carl would say, shaking his head. City boy thinks he's better than us. Jake felt the shift neighbors who'd once waved now avoided his eyes, and their kids stopped playing near his yard. It stung, but Jake wasn't just fighting for his power bill anymore. This was about his home, his peace, his life. Then came the real gut punch. One morning, Jake's car was sitting lopsided in the driveway, all four tires slashed, clean and deliberate. No proof it was Carl, but Jake knew. He replaced the tires, doubled down on his cameras, and kept every scrap of evidence. But Carl wasn't done. One rainy evening, Jake was driving home from the store, groceries in the back, when a black SUV roared out of nowhere at an intersection. Before he could react, it slammed into his car, metal crunching, airbags popping. Dazed, Jake stumbled out, rain soaking his shirt, and there was Carl, screaming, "Look what you did, you idiot. You ran the light." A crowd gathered, phones out, and Carl was in full performance mode, pointing, ranting. But Jake stayed calm, told the cops his side, and mentioned one key detail, his dash cam. That night, he reviewed the footage, and oh boy, it was gold. Carl idling in a side street, revving his engine, then gunning it straight for Jake's car. This wasn't an accident, it was a hit. Armed with that video, plus every clip of Carl's late-night cable antics, Jake took it all to the police. The evidence was airtight, a slam dunk. Carl's house of cards started to crumble. In court, he tried to play the victim, all teary-eyed, claiming Jake was out to ruin him. But Jake's lawyer was a shark, rolling out the videos one by one, Carl sneaking around, Carl ramming the car, Carl's whole web of lies unraveling. Neighbors came forward, too, spilling stories of Carl's bullying, how he'd strong-armed them over fence lines, HOA fees, you name it. The judge wasn't having it. She hit Carl with a hefty fine for damages, legal fees, the works, plus criminal charges for fraud and reckless endangerment. As the gavel dropped, Carl's smug grin was gone, replaced by a look of pure defeat. Maplewood Lane was never the same. Carl's name became a punchline, his house a ghost town until he slunk away one night, for sale sign flapping in the wind. Neighbors started talking again, sharing their own Carl stories, how he'd bullied Mrs. Thompson into selling her garden plot, how he'd threatened kids over stray baseballs. Jake, once the outsider, became the guy everyone thanked. At a block party, Old Man Henderson clapped him on the shoulder. "You did what we couldn't, kid." Mrs. Thompson brought him a peach cobbler, her eyes misty. "You gave us our neighborhood back." Sitting on his porch now, Jake thinks about it all, the fear, the fight, the victory. It wasn't just about a power cable or a wrecked car. It was about standing up when every instinct says run, about proving one person can change the game. Maplewood Lane's tighter now, kids play freely, neighbors chat over fences instead of hiding behind them. But Jake wonders, and maybe you do too, how many Carls are out there, lurking in plain sight, waiting for someone to call their bluff? What would you do if your dream home turned into a battlefield? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. Have you ever faced a bully like Carl, or seen a neighborhood turn on itself? Let's talk about it, because of stories like this. They're not just Jake's. They're ours.